Spider-Man No Way Home is out, and it is smashing some box office records, and it is laying waste to some of the Hollywood excuses that we have endured for months about why audiences aren't showing up at the theaters. I've been telling you since midsummer that it really all is about content, and this movie absolutely 100% proves all of this completely correct. The audiences are coming in droves. Record-setting numbers for this film, not just for the post-pandemic era, but for all time, and it's going to continue through the weekend. We're looking at a massive opening for this picture, both domestically and in international markets. Stay tuned, subscribe to this channel. We're going to have a lot to cover this weekend with Spider-Man No Way Home. Let's get into it. Renegade Online. Well, good Friday afternoon, folks, and welcome back. Another good day here at Valliant Renegade. And please, if you're like one of the 70% of folks out there seeing this video and maybe this channel for the very first time and you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button today. We appreciate you being here. Make sure you hit that notification bell, that like button, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, do leave a comment before you head out. We want to know your thoughts on this, but please, I would ask everybody, be respectful. Don't drop any spoilers or ask spoiler-type information in the comments. This is not going to be a spoiler video. We want to make sure we keep that out of here because there's a lot of folks that have not seen this yet. I did get to see this movie last night at my theater. I'll be seeing it again sometime this weekend, not sure when yet, but absolutely loved it. It was a great movie. I think it was very well done. That being said, let's get into the numbers because, frankly, I am not terribly surprised by this at all, except maybe to the degree some of these numbers are coming in. So this is a brand new update from Deadline, from Anthony D'Alessandro over there, somebody we follow quite frequently who does all the box office updates at Deadline. And he has just updated his Friday figures for Spider-Man No Way Home just minutes ago before we started recording this. So if you have not already heard, Spider-Man No Way Home Thursday night previews, North American market, $50 million in Thursday night previews. To put that into perspective, the year-to-date record holder was about $13 million in Thursday night previews. This, of course, was for Black Widow, which came out over the summer. And not only did it just beat that record, it utterly destroyed it, almost to the tune of 4 times higher, a little over 4 times higher, close to it. I mean, we don't have the exact final figures, but if it comes in at 51 or 49 and a half, we've got 50 million right now. That figure will, of course, be lumped in to the final Friday total, which, of course, is still ongoing as of this moment. But let's take a look and see where we are because there's some international numbers coming in. This movie is setting opening day records in countries like Mexico, even ahead of movies like Avengers Endgame. It's really something spectacular to see the fan response, the audience responses to this. The whole pandemic, I don't want to go to the movie theater excuse. This is why movies aren't doing good. I've been, again, telling people for months, throw that excuse out. That's not keeping people home. They're going out to sporting events. They're packing football stadiums. They're packing soccer stadiums. They're packing baseball diamonds. They're packing sporting events. They're packing concert venues. They're just not showing up to the theaters because the theaters, or Hollywood, really has not given them a whole lot to grab onto so far this year. This movie proves every point I've made for months, and we're going to go. It's only going to get crazier over the next couple of weeks. So here we are, the Friday midday update from Anthony D'Alessandro at Deadline Magazine, according to industry midday estimates from the article. Not Sony, meaning Sony usually lowballs figures, as most studios do. They want to underpromise and overdeliver. So this is industry estimates, which tend to be more accurate. Spider-Man No Way Home is easily heading toward an opening that is north of 200 million domestic. And yeah, it's going to be closer to 250. It might even get closer to 300, depending on how many additional screenings are being smashed into theaters, even still as we speak right now. Some have the John Watts directed MCU title between 238 and 250. I'm told that even if the wheels fall off of Spider-Man and Spider-Man nosedives 50% on Saturday from today, Friday, which includes Thursday previews, he should still comfortably land north of $200 million. Triple note, Midday Friday estimates are always the most aggressive. Sony, I hear, already has $97 million in the bank. This is in grosses. For today, Friday, which includes Thursday night previews, which should put the Tom Holland Zendaya picture between $115 and $120 million, including those previews for the Friday opener, which would be astonishingly high. And that puts it right in line with the only 3 movies to beat this in terms of Thursday night opening weekend previews. Or excuse me, the only 2 that have beaten it. This is the 3rd. The first place, of course, is Avengers Endgame, and the second place is Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, of course, this is unadjusted grosses. There is no inflation adjustment for older films that had cheaper ticket prices. We're just going to go with recent history here, but of course, even with those numbers, it's very difficult to beat considering the scale. Should a meteor hit the Earth, we're going back to the article now, this weekend, and for some unexpected reason, Spidey is in the high $100 million range. So right off the bat, and again, this is going with looking at Thursday night previews. If that Thursday night preview represents around 40 to 45% of the total Friday, which I expect it to, it might even be around the 40 side, which means the Friday total might be 125. There's no reason why we can't call this a phenomenal success, especially as we endure an ongoing pandemic, and there it is. And to be fair, in recent months, Anthony DeAlessandro and Deadline Magazine have been beginning to echo a lot of the things that I and others have said here on YouTube about put this, people aren't showing up because of the coof kind of excuse aside. I understand that may be the case for some people. I understand that may be the case in very limited areas, but theaters have been open. We have had several cinematic titles release here in the domestic market, which is the US and Canada, all of North America. We have had several domestic titles, big releases like Marvel movies that have come to this point, releasing on over 4,000 screens, and as this one is as well. So the theaters are open, people are going. There's just not been a draw like this in a good long while, and it shows that people are willing to get out there and go if you hand them something that they really want to see. And of course, this being a Sony Pictures and Sony Distributors release, that means there is no day and date release on a proprietary streaming service. There's no day and date release anywhere. There is no 30-day limited theatrical window, 45-day theatrical window. Sony is going to run this in the theaters much like they have been doing with Venom, which is now approaching almost 90 days in the theater. Venom is still playing. Should probably cross the $500 million mark this week, especially with the tie-in to this film being in the Spider-Verse here. I have a feeling that's going to give Venom a little bit of a bump, and I'm sure that's exactly what Sony wants, and you can expect to see Spider-Man probably sitting in theaters until probably at least sometime in March, if not longer. So don't expect to see this on streaming anytime soon. You've got to get to the theaters to see that. As far as the concerns, we're hearing that theater capacity restrictions are in effect, and I want to bring this up. 50% in Nova Scotia, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Canada, but that's not expected to throw much of a wrench into what we're seeing here on Spider-Man. And the reason is because these theaters are reacting by adding more screenings. They're moving other pictures out of multiplexes and moving more Spider-Man screenings in. And as far as other films in the marketplace, I hear that this weekend is not one where the tide rises all boats. Spider-Man is basically just going to obliterate everyone. Still, behold the living financial power of a fire-breathing theatrical window. Amen. A fire-breathing theatrical window. Why the heck doesn't anyone... I think he might have misdone this line. I think he means, why the heck would anyone want to practice day and date again? Somebody remind me. Absolutely, Anthony. I could not agree more. I could not agree more with that at all. This has been Hollywood's biggest problem this year, is this fear of returning exclusively to theaters. And the fear should be more around the caliber of content that they're producing that is just frankly not interesting. It's not interesting to audiences. Audiences are obviously being much more judicious with their time and their theatrical dollars that they're spending. Hollywood's just not bringing them in, nowhere near to this degree. And it's going to be probably some time before we see another movie like Spider-Man right now in terms of its draw. I don't really see much coming down the calendar that's going to do what this does. There will some that will certainly have admirable, very profitable performances at the box office, but not like this. A couple of things I want to bring up is some of the statistics earlier in the day, some of the exit polling. We talk about things from the benchmark scoring systems like from EntTelligence and whatnot. So let's scroll down and let's dive into some of these numbers, because some of the audience responses to Spider-Man, I thought Ghostbusters was amazing, but Spider-Man is beating the Ghostbusters Afterlife numbers in terms of audience reaction. So let's talk about this. All right, so from the same piece here, Anthony gives us some more insights, and I want to read this first part just to give you the numbers I mentioned before. Force Awakens also mentioned Avengers Endgame. You notice I didn't say Infinity War, because Spider-Man No Way Home has already torched Infinity War's opening Thursday night, which means it's probably going to have an even bigger weekend than that. Infinity War was the number 3 position. It is now ostensibly, if this trend holds for the weekend, Infinity War will actually fall behind Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, of course, this doesn't guarantee that this movie legs out and has a total gross north of $2 billion like Infinity War. But this is the part we're about to get into. This movie has a hell of a good chance to do just that. So we're going to scroll on down here, and we're going to talk about right here, overall box office analytics firms, Market EntTelligence reports that more than 3.7 million people saw Spider-Man No Way Home on Thursday night. Thursday previews, folks. 95% of those came after 3 p.m., which you would assume, as these were Thursday evening previews. Key metric here, on average, exhibition had 16 showtimes for the film on the night. What that means is each exhibition site, meaning if you had your local AMC or Regal theater, each local theater had, on average, 16 showings for the film on Thursday night. That goes to show you how much audience energy was coming in behind this. When ticket pre-sales went out, we know, and we talked about this on previous videos, when pre-sales went live about a month ago, shows were selling out within minutes. And we know that this movie set a hell of a record for ticket pre-sales on that end. And it's interesting to note here that it was so much that a lot of additional screenings have been added. I can tell you from my own theater, my personal experience, they certainly doubled the number of screenings or close to it for last night, and it seems like they've about doubled the number of screenings for today, tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday as well, because people are just packing in and they're coming back for repeat business. But here's a really interesting point. Moviegoers paid an average of $13.56 per ticket. Now, of course, this is higher than the average because these are nighttime showings. I would expect to see that average ticket price come down a good bit, probably somewhere in the vicinity of around 15 to 20% between now and Sunday if they update this number, because of course we're going to have a lot of daytime shows today on Friday. We're going to have a ton of daytime showings Saturday and Sunday, and of course those ticket prices do tend to be a good bit cheaper than the primetime showings. Theaters charge lower ticket prices for those earlier showings, so we'll see that average ticket price come down. But here's some key stuff. Out of the gate, Spider-Man No Way Home gets 5 stars on ComScore, Screen Engine's post-track, which we talk about a number of times here on this channel, from general audiences, and a massive 95% positive rating and an awesome 89% definite recommend. Not just recommend, but 89% with definitely recommend. That's insane. That's absolutely nuts. Spider-Man No Way Home's Thursday night crowd, and we do mean that, crowd, was 65% men, 35% women. Men under 25 led at 38%. Best grade with a 98% positive score. Men under 25 were 27% of the audience with a 95% grade. Women under 25, 21% with a 94% grade. Women over 25 repped at 14 with 88%. Spidey pulled in 33%, here's for the demographic breakdowns, 33% Caucasian, 33% Hispanic and Latino, 17% Black, 13% Asian. That is an amazingly good cross-section. I mean, obviously, it really breaks down pretty much perfectly with North American demographics, almost to a T in terms of, how things kind of come in, with obviously one exception, with Hispanic and Latino being very overrepresented in that metric. That's really, really amazing. And it shows a good cross-section across the board, especially, like I said, when you look at the Black population in the U.S. is somewhere around 12 to 13%. Asians were very overrepresented in the domestic market. I think, generally speaking, they're somewhere in that 5% range, if memory serves. They're very overrepresented here. So this movie is drawing in a very diverse and representative crowd. It's amazing, isn't it? You just give people a good movie and everybody shows up and loves it and doesn't care who's in it. So good on them. The 18 to 34 movie-going demo represented a huge 75% of last night's ticket sales. Those over 45 were 6%. Parents loved No Way Home, giving it 5 stars and 100% across all demos. That is nuts. And the kids under 12 were a little bit picky, giving it 4.5 stars, but a total positive of 96%. This movie, just like Ghostbusters Afterlife, but even more so, is reaching audiences and just wowing them across all demographic groups. Age, ethnicity, everything. This is one of these really special movies that goes to show you, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but if you leave the modern social politics out of things and you just make a really great movie that speaks to everyone, that has a tremendous amount of heart, this is what you get. This is what you get. And this is what Hollywood needs to learn. They need to look at these numbers and they need to understand where they've been going wrong all these years. And I hope they actually make some changes and really learn from this going forward. Before Sony made its preview number official this morning, number 1 and 3 circuits, AMC and Cinemark, Regal, of course, is number 2, already were declaring records along with online ticket seller Fandango. IMAX also had plenty to brag about, with a $10.1 million worldwide haul for No Way Home, 5.14, coming from the domestic North American market, making it the large format exhibitor's third biggest Thursday night ever. And I'm sure the first two are as the same as we've mentioned before, The Force Awakens and Avengers Endgame. So this is where we are now, folks. At this point, we can almost very confidently look at this and say that Spider-Man No Way Home is headed for at least a $200 million opening weekend here domestically in the North American market. I think the $200 million will virtually be blown apart by tomorrow night, by Saturday night, and we'll know those numbers Sunday morning. Of course, when the Sunday numbers come out, or when we get the report Sunday mid-morning, early afternoon, depending on your time zone, we're going to have the Saturday numbers and the Sunday estimates at that point. And the Sunday estimates, to be honest with you, with this film, may themselves also have to be taken with a little bit more of a salt intake than normal. Estimates are usually based on historical trends, but obviously we have plenty enough information here to show that this movie is bucking the average trends. And this is what you get with movies like this, like Endgame and things like this, and Infinity War, that these are films that everybody wants to see. And with the good word of mouth, that means that we are probably going to have, including myself, a lot of repeat business. We're going to have a lot of repeat business this weekend. We're going to have a lot of repeat business during the week. So I am anxious to see how this pans out, because we're going to be doing videos tomorrow morning and Sunday, if not tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, and Sunday afternoon as soon as we get updated figures, because this thing is going to go bananas, and it's going to continue to do that. The $114 million opening in the international markets. And this is something that I want to call to your attention here as well. If I can find the article right here. This came out just a couple of hours ago. If you were watching the live stream today on Midnight's Edge, this was discussed, but I want to bring this up. Spider-Man No Way Home soars to a $114 million overseas opening in the first 2 days. That is extraordinary. And as I said before, it's setting records, outright records, not pandemic era records, but just outright all-time records in several international markets. And if we go down here, we get a little bit of some of the breakdown. Places like the numbers and Box Office Mojo don't have everything broken out yet. We should have, certainly with the international stuff, all of that should be in by at the latest Monday. And I'm sure we're going to be doing another video Monday on this. But what we're looking at here is performing very well in places like South Korea, performing very well in places like Mexico with a $9 million opening day. It is really, it's just, the news keeps coming in and just keeps astonishing me. And I want to look at some of the international markets real quick. Set an opening, pandemic. Now, this was a pandemic era opening day record in Korea on Wednesday. Also, yesterday, it scored the best Wednesday launch ever in the UK with $10.1 million US equivalent. That debut topped the $6.6 million first day of No Time to Die. So in other words, Spider-Man beat out James Bond in Britain on its opening day. That's something. That's something. You're talking about one of the most popular characters of all time in that market, and it got beat, and it didn't get beat by just a little bit. It got beat by almost 35% or so. Wednesday, No Way Home grabbed $9 million US in Mexico, or $9 million US equivalent in Mexico for the biggest ever opening day in the market. Biggest ever. Not pandemic era, but biggest ever. This comes in above Avengers Endgame when excluding that film's previews. In France, No Way Home had a Wednesday start of 4.3 million, 2% above Infinity War. Russia logged the number 3 all-time opening day with 3.5 million, and Italy gave Sony its best opening day with 3.4 million. That's out of any Sony picture that has previously opened there. Also encouraging news out of Taiwan, 1.4 million on Wednesday, another Sony record there. And in Korea, No Way Home added an estimated 3.3 million for a running 2-day cume of 8.58 million, 95% share of the entire Korean box office market, which is crazy. Now, it mentions here curfews coming in Saturday. Now, this is something else that is going to have an effect on the international box office this weekend and for the coming weeks. Sony has removed Spider-Man No Way Home from several international markets because certain international markets are locking back down again. Now, this is one of those times where we say, talking in this video about don't use the pandemic era as an excuse. Of course, we're talking about where markets are actually opened up. And we have a lot of very open markets, and we have had them for many months, and the movies just didn't perform there. So obviously, if Spider-Man No Way Home turns in a fat 0 from places like Norway, where our friend Andre from Midnight's Edge resides, that's because the movie just hasn't been open there. They're delaying the release almost a full month. I think that's going to have an impact. Obviously, we're going to have piracy and things like this, which is a shame. Hopefully it won't be too bad, but it is definitely going to affect the international markets that they're doing this in. That being said, this thing is still a freight train. This thing is still going to make a ton of money. I would not be at all surprised if we wake up Monday morning when we get the bulk of the international numbers coming in, when we see what they really are, and we can virtually proclaim at that point with opening weekend that indeed Spider-Man No Way Home is in the black, meaning that Sony has recovered its $200 million production budget on this that was turned over to Marvel to produce the film. And Kevin Feige has been doing Spider-Man films since the very first one with Tobey Maguire. So this is why they handed it back to Marvel, but make no mistake, Spider-Man is, in terms of its film rights, is a Sony property. They hold those rights. So this is still going to be Sony walking away with the lion's share of the box office for this. And with a $200 million budget, with Marvel's partnership on this, Marvel reportedly has, according to the new deal, a 25% equity stake in the film, meaning they basically have a $50 million hand in the $200 million production budget. And they're going to walk away with 25% of the net box office receipts after Cinemark, Regal, AMC take their cut. And of course, the international markets are going to take their cut. They take more of a cut than we get here domestically. But because this is a Sony release, because there's no day and date release on a streaming service, because there's no shortened window of 30 to 45 days, Sony is going to be rewarded with, frankly, some of the very best, if not absolutely the best, as they have been getting, box office rental agreements. They're getting money from the box office much more akin to the pre-pandemic era because they're not handcuffing their pictures, as we've talked many times before on this channel about. They're not handcuffing their pictures to streaming releases and things like this, like Warner Brothers is. The Matrix, of course, is coming out next week as a good example, day and date on HBO Max. Or they're not shortening the windows like Disney has been with something like Encanto or Shang-Chi or The Eternals, which is as dead as dead can get. And we're going to talk about more in a future video is, what are the implications moving forward? What are the implications for Marvel if the Spider-Man property is doing this well? What could this mean? Because Marvel does not seem to have anything else on the horizon that is going to financially, box office performance-wise, even closely approach what this film is fixing to do. So, of course, if you love the business and financial information on the Hollywood stuff, you found the right channel. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell. Do share this sucker out. And, of course, leave a comment before you go. But again, I remind you, no spoilers. Don't spoil in the comments. I'll delete the comment if I catch it. So please, no spoilers in the comments. Thank you all for being here very much. And until next time, take care.